welcome
boy.
to the So What You Saying Is
Thank
podcast.
you. Yes, sir.
You ready? We got the wizard
They
of
ready.
ready. We can talk about it.
So what you saying is?
Let's go and talk about it. We got the knowledge to build, so we gon' build about it.
So what you saying is?
Let's go and build about it.
I want to thank y'all for tuning in.
Oh,
man.
you're welcome.
And you know what? Hopefully, I hope y'all learned something today.
I did.
And y'all come back for some more. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what you saying is?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to So What You Saying Is podcast. And today, we got my man T Wiggins in the building.
Yes, sir.
Let's give it up to my man T Wiggins.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah.
Welcome always, bro.
So, how's life been treating you, bro?
I'm blessed, man. Life is great.
I can dig it, man. So, we've been chomping at the bit to get you on the podcast for a minute, right? So, ultimately, man, everybody wants to get to know, your experience and what happened, what took place with you in terms of your health and how everything went down, right? So, just, give the audience a little bit in terms of what actually happened
Indeed.
in your situation.
Back in 2006, I found out I was born with a neurological condition called an AVM, which basically means of a small blockage in one of the veins that runs through my brain. And because of my habit of smoking cigarettes and marijuana consistently, eventually the blockage burst and I suffered an aneurysm.
Wow. So you said that was something you were born with?
Yes, sir.
And when exactly did you find out that was something that you had basically been living with all your life?
When I was 32 years old.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's wow, man. That's amazingly to be living a life and not knowing that's there. That's like a silent killer.
Killer, exactly.
That's my next question though. Like, there was no way of detecting it prior to.
No, according to medical specialists and my neurologist, most people that have AVMs don't realize they have it until they die. So I consider myself blessed and lucky because I survived mine.
Did they tell you? Is that like? Could they, like, anyone that just feels after they hear this story, right? Is there like could they go in and get tested for something like that?
Oh, absolutely. The unfortunate thing is, unless you get constant MRIs, you won't know you have it. And I don't know if you're familiar with health insurance and how those things work. MRIs are not covered by a lot of health insurance plans.
And they only recommend you get a certain amount in a certain period of time, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
So where exactly were you when this all happened?
Actually, I was home and I had a real bad headache. And I thought it came from stress because at the time I was dating this young lady who was getting on my nerves constantly. and I just broke up with her, truthfully. And I just thought it came from that. But when I went to the hospital that night, they told me, Mr. Wiggins, you have a busted hemorrhage in your brain. And it's bleeding rapidly. That was the word that the ER doctor said.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. And I know earlier that evening I had been drinking alcohol and smoking marijuana. So
what happened after they told you that?
they told me they didn't have a neurologist on the campus at Holy Cross Hospital. So they had to medevac me to Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. On my way there, I slipped into a coma.
Damn. Wow. I know that had to be a lot to digest just hearing that news. Like mentally, can you recall like what you was thinking to yourself?
I was honestly, I had never heard of it, so I didn't know what to think. I was just, my first question to the ER doctor I can remember was, "Am I going to die?" And they said, and he told me, "Mr. Wiggins, not necessarily. We just have to get you to the right facility so you can get the correct help." So, like I said, on the way to John Hopkins, I slipped into a coma. So when I got there, they had to send me to shock trauma to revive me because the surgeons could not perform the surgery with me in a coma. I would have died.
Wow.
Wow, that's heavy.
So after 9 hours of surgery, I came through, but because I had lost so much blood from the bleeding hemorrhage, I suffered a stroke during the surgery, which left me partially disabled on the left side of my body. So I had to go through years of therapy to learn how to walk again, and become somewhat independent and function and be able to function.
Now, did you have a family there with you going through this process?
Yes, for the most part, yes. After they found out what was going on, yes.
Okay.
It just took years of therapy for me to get somewhat independent again.
I was going to ask you, what was the hardest adjustment that you had to make, after this change in your life?
Honestly, the hardest thing for me was not being able to work full time and provide for myself. Mentally, I was cool. I was like, it's a part of life. It's something that happened. There's nothing I can do about it. So let's work on trying to get better.
Right.
So in other words, you're still transitioning. It's still a learning process or adjustment for you. Would you say that?
No, not really, because at this point I'm pretty much doing everything that I used to do, that I need to do anyway. The things that I don't do now are things that I don't need to be doing.
I recall talking to you at one point in time, and you said you were going through like a type of water therapy.
Yes, that's actually the aquatic therapy is what helped me started walking again. Because I was in a wheelchair for about 3 or 4 months. But after I took aquatic therapy, it helped me regain the feeling and the strength in my legs. And also where I was going to therapy at, they had basketball courts on the side of the pool. So I was able to shoot basketball, which was good because my therapist told me because that's a repetitive skill, it'll help my brain heal faster and other things will come back to me a lot sooner. Like cutting hair, which I did before I had this unfortunate incident happen, and now I'm back to cutting hair.
That's dope.
That's a bless. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
man. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I guess, like, how did the relationships between your family and friends, maybe some of your coworkers getting back to work right now and stuff like that, how did it affect, those relationships? Or if it even affected any of those relationships?
I know I can honestly say there was a lot of people who was there for me. When I was going through this, people called me all the time, asking me did I need anything, or could they bring me anything, am I okay? And when I got well enough to function somewhat independently again, I was offered my job back, So
That's what's up.
Yeah, let's give it up for him, man.
Yes,
Let's give it up for him. You know what I mean? That's a really really good approach and like your thought process to things, man. You know, I really commend you because uh, some people couldn't be able to handle something like that. You know what I mean? Or wouldn't know how to really deal with it, or have a tough time dealing with it. You know what I mean?
indeed.
So I definitely commend you on that.
Yeah.
We all go through things, That's what make life life. I think for the most part, your whole ordeal and all with your physicality and having to adjust and all that, that's the test. I think you sharing it is a testimony.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
And I know my former boss, he used to always ask me, because he remembered me from my younger days when I was in my 20s and 30s and how I used to live. He asked me, did I miss any of that stuff? And I was like, nah, because I had so much fun back then. I had enough fun for 4 lifetimes. I did everything I wanted to do and then some. So I don't miss anything.
What do you think what do you think is the greatest lesson that you learned while all of this?
To take better care of your body and not to put harmful things in it.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very tall task.
A lot of people.
being as though like everything you pick up basically possesses something negative in it. But I can dig what you're saying. But there's a reality that, like you said, this particular what is it called again?
The condition?
Yeah,
AVM.
it's something that you can't really look out for.
Mm.
You know, with that. So I don't even know how you can prevent it. You know what I'm saying?
Actually, the scary thing about it is you can't, because it's congenial, meaning something you're born with.
Right. So it's different from like, how I knew a person who had an aneurysm, just like a regular aneurysm. And is that something that was with them and they just didn't know? Or is that like completely different from?
I think it's different because people get headaches. You know, they get things that'll alert them to, like, hey, you better
get checked out.
Yeah. You know, because my mother-in-law she had I think she had a double aneurysm that she survived.
Yeah.
And things ain't no joke, bro.
Yeah, it's not.
You know, and but ultimately, something like what happened to him is like that's what can you do?
Yeah. Because like I
what can you do?
Yeah, I recall, man. It was like I haven't seen you in years, so it was like when I seen you over a friend's house, and I just seen you, and I was like, hey, what's up? Everybody was like, oh, slow down. So I didn't know at the time. You know what I mean? And I guess that brings me to my question. Like I didn't know what to think, how to think. Do you get that? Like people have misconceptions about what you go through, or like when they first see you again first time, or like strangers when they look at you, things of that nature.
Yes, honestly, it's crazy you say that because I was in the grocery store the other day, and this kid who I used to cut his hair when he was a young man, he saw me, and he's an adult now. He saw me, but he was like, man, he came up to me. He was like, your name Tony, right? I was like, yeah, what's up, champ? He was like, you used to cut my hair when I was in high school. I was like, all right, that's what's up, man. It's good to see you. He was like, but I heard, what happened to you, man? But you look good. He was like, you look good. You don't look like nothing wrong. I was like, no, I'm good, champ. But yeah, he was like that. He didn't know how to approach me. But I was like, he didn't. I can tell he was being very careful with what he said. But I told him, I said, I'm all right, man. No, I'm good.
Would you rather people, just come straight up, like people who know you, would you rather them just approach you like how they knew you, like in the past, like just come out like, hey, what's up, Tony?
Oh,
You know
absolutely,
what I mean?
yeah.
Instead of like the stares or and just be blunt with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just treat me like you used to.
Yeah.
But I think the first time you were actually cutting my hair, and I came to the barber shop, and everybody told me what had happened, so I immediately beelined to where you were. But at that time, you were very early in your rehab.
Right.
And I must say, for me, it was kind of definitely rough seeing you in that position. But at the same time, I wanted to do everything that I could to help. But like you say, a lot of times I would ask you what you need help with, as opposed to just, taking over those, what I think.
It's assumption, like having
yeah,
assumed
you know what I'm
something,
saying?
right?
That's peace. That's
You
peace.
know, first thing I did was ask if you was hungry. You know what I'm saying? You want a steak or something?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
food bring everybody together and calm the situation,
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang, man.
But I ultimately, man, I just felt, your story, because I have seen you overcome a lot of obstacles. Even when I talk to you today, there's some things that you still get frustrated with. Can you mention some of them things that you still get, a little aggravated about when they don't go in accord? Because I know one of them is your travel.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but you know what, bro? Yeah, but that's something that I've learned to be patient with, because it's just too, like the old saying is, it's too much like right. Like when you need them there, they take their time, but when you don't need them to hurry, they Johnny on the spot. I mean, early.
Yeah.
But that's just life, man. I don't even let it get to me anymore. But
If someone in a similar situation, or people that's going through something, that drastically changed their life, if you wanted to share like any coping skills or something like that with them, like what do you use to cope, or like certain things that you do to bring you back to a focus?
I meditate and I stay away from ignorance and stress. I immediately eliminate any type of dysfunction or stress out of my life. I don't deal with it at all.
Yeah.
If a person is getting on my nerves, I remove them from the equation.
Yes, indeed.
So ultimately though,
Peace.
you suffer from a stroke, right?
Yeah, but it was what you call a surgically induced stroke, because I lost so much blood from the busted hemorrhage and slipped into the coma. That's what caused the stroke.
Right. So that's ultimately what you was rehabbing from.
Yes. Absolutely.
The stroke. You said the stroke occurred when you transport.
When the hemorrhage started bleeding, because it shut my brain completely down. That's how I went into the coma.
You had shared before a story about you being in the car and something happened with you. Can you tell that story again?
Yes, I was I was down south visiting my mother, and I was driving in the car, and while I was driving, I slipped into a seizure and crashed into a house. And the car caught on fire. And the only thing that saved me was my uncle happened to be driving down the street at the time. And he didn't know it was me. He just saw somebody that needed help. And he pulled over and helped me and pulled me out the car and called 911. But he didn't know it was me at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Blessing.
Man,
Yes.
so
blessing on top of blessings. Wow.
So yeah, that was scary because I didn't even realize what happened until I got in the hospital, and I looked up and I saw my mother and my stepdad and my uncles and a couple of other family members all standing around me, and I was looking like, what is going on?
Right.
And they told me what happened, and I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. I was like, are you serious?
And this is also after everything, right?
Yeah, this was after everything had happened. Yeah.
That's why I said blessing on top of blessing.
Right.
On top of blessing.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible.
It's unbelievable. I still think about it to this day because, I mean, by grace, my uncle happened to be driving down the street. If he wasn't, I'd have burnt up in that car.
Yeah.
Because the whole car caught on fire.
Wow.
See, he's a living, walking, breathing example of why you can't take life for granted.
Yeah.
Straight gratitude.
Really.
Straight gratitude.
Really. Makes you think, you know what I'm saying? It makes you really think about, you know, how important little things are, you know, in your life. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Yeah, real talk.
It's like, you know, every day I leave this house, it's a blessing to come home.
Yes,
You know,
indeed.
so it's like I acknowledge that every morning that I leave.
That's a thing right there a lot of people take for granted.
Yes,
Leaving home,
Oh yeah.
being able to return.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember doing security. That was more part of the training, you know, where they would be dressed to go home. Dressed to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, you definitely have an unbelievable story, brother. Like I can't even. I don't know anybody's testimony like yours. You know what I'm saying?
I don't either.
I can honestly say that, you know, and you know, we've known you since you was 15 years old. So it was
Absolutely.
like there was nothing in, you know what I'm saying, in our recollection that would even say, you know, this would even had happened to you. You know what I mean? Because you were doing so well for yourself. But like you said, man, there's no way to know.
I also see like that the fact that all this did transpire, right? And us knowing you. It also gives me that idea that, you know, a lot of times things really do get overlooked, and then you might be like thinking it can't be me. You know what I'm saying? There's no chance that it be.
And that's true. A lot of people think that. Like even me to this day, man. Like, you know, riding up here, you know, it seemed like several accidents. You know, a little rain stuff, and you know, you just never know if a car on the other side of the road come sliding over into your lane. You know, anything can happen. You know what I mean? And you just think about like that. You know.
But here's the reality to it, because you can't, and I bet you can attest to this. You can't live every moment thinking about that either.
Or in fear. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you don't go out here and live according to how you want to live, then why are we here?
Yeah. What's the point?
You know that's how I heard they define stress a lot of times, right? So things happen in the past. You can't put too much thought on that.
Yeah.
Because it already happened. You ain't going back.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
non-existent.
then you got where you are in the moment. You mentioned that to me. You're in the moment where you are, but then some people think too far ahead.
Yeah.
And they said that causes stress all in itself. Like it's good stress and bad stress. Like when you know
This
something
stress is
is
like
urgent.
having a project that you're working on,
You need
and
a
it's
time.
tough, it's challenging.
That's
you know
right.
what I'm saying?
That's positive.
But I will say this though for you, Tony. Man, like we grew up, we formed a bond, right? And we did a lot of things. And you know, when people leave impressions in your life, it affects you when they're no longer there. You know what I'm saying? Because those spaces and those times hold a lot of weight. You know what I'm saying? And that was one of the things that I was real happy that I was able to speak to you and talk to you again. You know what I mean? Because, hey, ain't nothing promised, man. You know?
No, it's not.
So, you know what I'm saying? I'm grateful that we still got you here with us. You know what I'm saying? And one of the main reasons why I wanted you to come on the podcast, man.
You're a lesson. You're a walking, talking, breathing lesson.
You know, have you ever thought about that, man? Using this, like giving yourself a platform to speak about things in terms of what transpired with you?
Well, I share my testimony with people all the time, bro. And I know for me, it's only grace that I'm still here. There's no other reason. And my mother, before she died, she told me, you have a purpose. You may not know what it is yet, but you have a purpose. Because that's only one incident in my life where I escaped death. There's multiple other ones. So.
Yeah, bro. I say keep building. That's why I'm glad you had. Thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. We all do. And it's tough to get in front of, a lot of people and express yourself in front of, an audience, and, that's bravery and courage, man. And I salute you on that,
Yeah, and is there anything else? I don't really mean anything that you want to say out there in the universe of everybody watching us, man? Anything you want, Jewel, you want to drop? Anything you want to say?
Stay prayed up, stay focused, eliminate yourself or remove yourself from negativity.
That's what's up.
There it is. Give it up to my man T Wiggs, man. You know what I'm saying?
Give it up. Salute.
Yes, sir. Salute. And that's the first episode of So What You Saying Is podcast, man. And don't go nowhere, man, because we got something coming up special for y'all.
Yes,
so
indeed.
Stay tuned. All right?
Peace.
Welcome to the So What You Saying Is podcast.
Thank you.
Yes,
You ready? We got the wisdom.
They ain't ready.
We can talk about it.
So what you saying is?
Let's go and talk about it. We got the knowledge to build, so we gon' build about it.
So what you saying is?
Let's go and build about it.
I want to thank y'all for tuning in.
Oh, you're welcome.
And you know what? Hopefully, I hope y'all learned something today.
I did.
Y'all come back for some more. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what you saying is?